Thank you very much. Yeah, Bona Dimineta Tuturo. All right, I've been having a great time in Cluj. It's a beautiful city. The people are warm. Thank you, Andrea and Daniel, for giving us this platform. So my name is Abiodun Dominic Odunuga. I'm Nigerian, but I'm based in Paris. I've been living in France for close to 9 years now. And I'll be talking briefly about the business and innovation ecosystem in Nigeria. But before I start with my slides, okay. All right. I edited my slide because of an engagement I had yesterday during the coffee break. So I met with a very wonderful lady who is not here today, and we had an interesting engagement. So when I mentioned to her I'm based in Paris, but I'm Nigerian, she made a remark to say, "Oh, most Romanians know Nigerians, and we know the Nigerian prince." How many of you have, how many of you have received the email from the Nigerian prince? Okay, I mean, so you bear witness to that. And so, I mean, you can imagine, okay, that puts me on a very more tight corner because now I have to pitch my country to you. Um, but beyond what you've heard from the prince who wants to give you millions of dollars, has an inheritance to help you claim some money, there's a lot more to Nigeria than that. That's just a minute fraction. And I'm here to let you understand that beyond what you've heard or what you know about Nigeria, that's not what Nigeria really is. And I hope that with this presentation, you get some insight into what the ecosystem and the Nigerian tech environment offers to us. Um, I'm not sure if this is working correct. Okay, sorry. All right. So, um, beyond what you know already about Nigeria, probably what you don't know is that Nigeria's film industry, tagged Nollywood, is the second biggest in the world. And when I mean second biggest, that is Bollywood from India comes first, Nollywood second, and Hollywood from the US third. And second in terms of volume. Every year in Nigeria, about 2,500 movies are produced. The movie industry contributes up to $7 billion to the Nigerian economy. The movie industry employs over 1 million Nigerians, and that is Nigeria for you. So, in case this is not what you know about Nigeria, I'm just trying to set some tone to the discussion that we have. Aside that, also, Nigeria is the sixth largest country in the world. So, in our parlance, when we do an inside joke in Nigeria, we talk about that for every 5 black person you meet in the world, there is a Nigerian. It's a population with over 200 million people, the sixth largest in the world. Diverse economies from agriculture to creative industry. If you've not listened to Nigerians' music, I think I put it to you. You'll be glued if you go on YouTube and you just get to some of our Afro beats. You probably put it on, somebody's nodding already. So you know Burna Boy? Okay, you know Wizkid. Okay, so we're big on creative industry, we're big on tech, we're big on agriculture, we're big on innovation. Aside that also, which is the cross of the matter here today, is the tech ecosystem. And one of the things I want to start with is just, just summarize these figures. 200 million people plus people. And out of that, 90% of the population is mobilely connected. Aside that also, you have 50% of the population that internet users, that's over 100 million. And then you have also a very good chunk also that is very social media savvy. Again, when it comes to the startup ecosystem, on this chart you see a report there from Disrupt Africa last year. In the entire continent, Nigerian startups, about 180 of them raised funding, and coming second after the Nigerian startups is Egypt with 131 startups, and also you have in the third place Kenya. So let you know that the Nigerian ecosystem is the strongest and the most formidable in the continent. And if you also group that into figures, just last year alone, the Nigerian startups raised about $976 million just last year. And so in terms of fundraising, that puts some context to what I'm talking about today. I'll try to make this just pick two elements here. The one I want you to concentrate about is the first one that talks about Florida Wave. How many of us know Florida Wave? Okay, Florida Wave is a Nigerian fintech. and broke a record to be one of the strongest fintech that was able to raise a Series D, $250 million last year. And aside that also, you see in the third point here that between 2015 and 2021, Nigeria has become the most desirable place to invest when it comes to the African continent. And the three Nigerian startups altogether raised about $2 billion, and that makes it the number of highest fundraising when it comes to startups on the continent. So I'm here not talking about a little ecosystem in the map of the world, but the strongest in the African continent. Putting this also in context, out of the 7 unicorns that we have in Africa, 7 unicorns, and unicorns, for those of you who know, are companies or startups that are worth $1 billion and above. Nigerian startups we have about 4 startups who are in that category out of the entire continent of startups that are worth over $1 billion. And out of that, you see Flutterwave, you see most of them are fintechs, and then you have one of them, Mandela, which is into talent marketplace. So in a nutshell, just to put this in context, if you gather the entire West African region, countries together such as Ghana, Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin, Mali, and you put them together, the funds they raised was not even up to what Nigeria raised alone. Nigerian startups altogether raised $2 billion just last year. So it's not just a major block in the continent, but also a major block in the region. So why Nigeria? What's the big deal about Nigeria? So if you don't believe the stats, probably you might believe some of these faces here. That's Mark Zuckerberg, founder and CEO of Facebook. He was in Nigeria in 2016. Why would he go to Nigeria out of many places in the world? And Mark went to Nigeria, and he didn't just return without doing anything. Mark engaged the ecosystem in Nigeria. And after that trip, he was able to launch a hub in partnership with one of the foremost incubators in Nigeria, Co-Creation Hub, CC Hub. Not only that, Mark actually was one of the investors in one of the unicorns that I showed you up, Andela. Mark invested about $24 million into that fund, into that startup. So a year after Mark went to Nigeria, you had the CEO of Google also going to Nigeria. Sundar went into Nigeria. And they went to Nigeria in 2017. And in this interaction, he also made a commitment after seeing the buoyancy and meeting some of the formidable team there. And he also made a commitment that Google will be raising and investing in 100,000 Africans in the area of software engineering. And they'll be focusing on 3 countries in Africa: Nigeria, number 1, Kenya, and South Africa. Now, a year passed after Google CEO went to Nigeria, and then you had ex-Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey. Jack was in Nigeria in 2019, and he also went to see for himself what's really special about this ecosystem. What's the big deal about this country? And of course, if some of you would know about Jack, he's very strong when it comes to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. And if you do your research well, amongst the top countries in the world when it comes to adoption of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, Nigeria is on the top 5, top 10. And also when it comes to user and membership, when it comes to cryptocurrency. So there's something about this country. So let's go down to Asia. Beyond Jack, Dorsey, then we had Jack Ma also go the same year in 2019 to Nigeria, and that was with the vice president, the current vice president of Nigeria. I need to say the current vice president because in a few days, the baton is changing to a new government. And so the current vice president hosted Jack Ma. And Jack Ma was also pleased with what he saw. And he said that he's going to be investing in the e-sector, e-governance, e-infrastructure, e-tech, and all of e-edutech. And this was Jack Ma. Now, this is enough to let you know there's something about this ecosystem. There's something strong that the world is not, probably some part of the world are not paying attention to. But in case you doubt all of these faces that I've shown to you, then maybe you would not doubt the EU. I was part of this project, and it was a 36-month project by the EU, funded by the EU, under the auspices of the IOM, International Organization for Migration. Europe I live in Europe, so I know what I'm saying. Europe, as it is right now, has a shortage of skills when it comes to ICT. And the numbers of young people who can fill the positions in companies are insufficient in Europe as we speak. It's a deficit. And the EU looked around, looked around the world. How can we solve an European problem for within 36 months? And they called on two countries in Africa who had the pool of talents that could solve the crisis in Europe. Namely, guess what the countries? Of course, Nigeria. Nigeria and Senegal. So Nigeria and Senegal talents were the most important fabric to be able to mainstream them to solve a current European crisis. And the four countries that were used as a test case was Luxembourg, Italy, Netherlands, and Belgium. And these four countries were used as a landmark or like a prototype to see how Nigerian talents in the tech area could help salvage deficits in Europe. So again, I wish the guys behind the Nigerian, the Nigerian prince sending you mails know about these opportunities because we are more useful in this, right? So that's probably one of my job to be able to help them see that you don't need to send spam mails to people in Romania. You need to be able to get to solve their problems. And so beyond that also is Microsoft. Microsoft last year also launched a very, very terrific initiative called the African Development Center. And this center, the amount of investment that went into this center was $100,000. And this is focused on just Nigeria and also Kenya. And the goal is to be able to get loads of software engineers within these two countries who can meet the demand of not just the US, but the global demand when it comes to software engineering. Again, this is Microsoft in Nigeria. And in that picture, you see the current governor of Lagos State, also the replica of Cluj, the most dynamic and the most formidable ecosystem. As a matter of fact, the population of Lagos State, where I'm from, is more than the whole population of Romania combined together. Lagos is over 24 million people. Lagos has, if Lagos were a country, is going to be the sixth largest country in terms of GDP contribution in Africa. So Lagos is quite positioned, and that's one of the strongest ecosystem in Africa. And so I see a lot of linkages where Lagos ecosystem and Cluj could have something to do, and I hope Andre and Daniel will take up on that. Yeah, so in wrapping up, this is not shown well. I'm not sure why. So I'm supposed to be the list of stakeholders here on this chart. So here, major things here, who are the major actors in this regards? The government stakeholders are there. These are actors within the local and the state and the national level doing a lot of work in the ecosystem. The private sector is strong also in the ecosystem. We have venture funds. We have incubators and accelerators. We have tertiary institutions. All of these fabrics and components are what makes the Nigerian ecosystem formidable. And I listed some of them there. You would see the likes of Ventures Platform. You see Co-Creation Hub. These are foremost incubators. You see AfriLabs. AfriLabs is an organization that is spread across 50 African countries, and they have over 300 entrepreneurship support organizations, ESOs, and also incubators within their auspices. And you also have NITDA there. That's the Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency, who is also mainstreaming policies to ensure that startups and foreign investors have a soft landing in Nigeria. So what are the opportunities, when it comes to Nigeria? What's on ground that you can meet? You have multi-sector opportunities across the health area, across agriculture, across financial services. You also have the market size. I just mentioned to you that Lagos State alone is the entire population of Romania. And so the markets and the demand is there in terms of consumption. You also have the talent pool. I did mention about the IOM project. You also have innovation with the number of young people birthing ideas, solving not just local problems, but global problems. And then you also have the strong private sector. And if you look at this snapshot, you see a sort of sector metrics on how the startups are divided. FinTech, for instance, has about 36%. And so we're very big when it comes to financial inclusion. Then you have e-commerce tech, all down to other services such as waste management. So all of these components tells you how strong the Nigerian tech ecosystem is. And some of the startups that we have listed here, you have from Flutterwave to Paga, you have Iroko TV that's on entertainment. You also have Edukoya, you have Carrywise. And so these are just a snapshot of some of the major players or startups in the ecosystem. Just as a roundup, I did mention about the private sector, very big. So you can know that Nigerian private sector is not just playing on a small scale. These are just recent news. Just this week, precisely on Monday, Nigerian billionaire or the richest man in Africa, Aliko Dangote, commissioned a refinery, and it's the world's largest single train refinery. Nowhere in the world do you have a refinery in this capacity as a single train refinery. And this refinery will be processing 650,000 barrels per day. And this was just commissioned in Nigeria just a few days ago, earlier this week on Monday. And not only that, also, and this is worth about $20 billion, you also have a bank, a Nigerian owned bank, that just launched in Paris, coming to give a run for European banks, a run for their money. So when it comes to the ecosystem and the private sector, the Nigerian business innovation system is not just within itself, it's not a closed circle. Nigerians are used to dreaming big and they're used to going after big things. And that's why I see an opportunity to see what possible, collaborations can happen using Romania as a gateway to Eastern Europe. And how do we mainstream all of these engagements? In our organization, Friends of Nigeria, this is what we do. We try to be the bridge between European stakeholders and Nigerian stakeholders. And we do this at different levels. We connect governments to governments, G to G. We also do B2Bs, business directly to businesses. And also, we also leverage on events. And one of our events would be Spotlight Nigeria. So just in case Lagos is too far for you to go and you can't travel to Nigeria, in case you don't want to go through the old stress, what we do with Spotlight Nigeria is that we bring Nigeria to Europe. So every year, this is going to be the 6th edition. And we've already extended an invite to Andrew and Daniel to be around to represent the Cluj innovation ecosystem. So on that event, we're going to bring Nigerian players, both from the public and private sector. And this year will be the 6th edition, happening in October. And you get to interface with the players of the industry. And so even though it's hosted in Paris, it's an European event where Nigerian stakeholders are connected with European stakeholders. And we hope to see some of you there. And that's what we do. And we also do trade missions, like I mentioned. I round up with this statement. Africa has been described as the new frontier for global growth. And it's not news. But if you're interested in Africa, but you're not thinking Nigeria, then your vision is too small. And you need to make it big. Thank you very much.